Will Joe Biden forgive student loans? He campaigned on the platform for presidency that he was going to eliminate student debt. He might not make good on that promise. Now there's 45 million people in this country with student loans, and if you're one of them, I made this video specifically for you. This one gets a little crazy. Hi, I'm Tyus, and I make videos about personal freedom. And within that is one category, which is financial freedom. You can't really be free if you're tied up in debt. Have you ever heard the term, the borrower is slave to the lender? Well, in this country, in the United States, we have $1.7 trillion in student debt. That is 8 Xboxes per every man, woman, and child in the country. That means that every single one of us could get a 2006 Toyota Camry. Every single one of us. Student debt is not like other forms of debt, and the reason why is it's not forgivable. You can't usually even attach it to a bankruptcy, so it's impossible to remove if you have some of it. Joe Biden, in his recently announced stimulus proposal, did not have anything to say about removing student debt or providing any relief for it, which was really surprising. It was surprising for 2 reasons. The first reason is that he campaigned on it.
Right now for students, forgiveness of student loans. Go to a state university for free. Free education, debt relief, forgive student loans. If you're a state university, it should be free.
The second reason it's surprising that Biden didn't include student loan debt relief within his stimulus package or proposal is because there's already an existing precedent for it. A precedent for a president. If you can say that 5 times fast, hit the like button. The CARES Act of 2020 took a stab at student loan debt relief. It specifically did this right after the COVID epidemic really crashed the economy with our lockdowns that took place. So it did 3 basic things. The first thing that it did is that it suspended student loan payments. The second thing is that it absolutely froze all collections for outstanding debt. And lastly is that it completely stopped interest faster than wearing suspenders on a blind date.
Who are you even talking to?
Now the CARES Act expires at the end of the month, and that could be a really bad thing for the people with student loan debt that pause their payment because they're in a financial situation that doesn't allow them to make payments right now. Now a poll from the Pew Project around student borrower success found that 87% of people with student loans are having a difficult time paying them back. Of the people that paused payment, 60% said they're going to have a difficult time resuming payments. And 25% feel financially unstable. This is made all the worse by the fact that if you have a bachelor's degree, it's decreasing in value every year. Over the 20th century, the amount of outstanding college debt has slowly increased. It's kind of trickled upward. But within the last 15 years, it exploded in its value. Basically, it increased by 464% in the last 15 years. The graph went like this and then just skyrocketed. What caused this? Well, before 1993, there were 0 government loans. Nowadays, 92% of all student debt is owned by the government, and even the private loans are almost all guaranteed by the government. What happened? Well, in 2008, Congress passed a bill called an act called the Ensuring Continued Access to Student Loans Act. What this did is it gave a lot more people the opportunity to get student loans, and of course that's exactly what they did. And it was expanded even further in 2010 with the Healthcare and Education Reconciliation Act. Do you think this fixed the problem? No. Now, politicians blame college tuition prices for this, but they're probably wrong because there's an alternative theory that is much more compelling because it's based in the basic economics of supply and demand. Here's the idea. If there's more loans being issued, then that's going to make there be more students because more people can now afford it with the loans. The issue is that colleges have a limited amount of seats. They've got a maximum capacity. So for a college to handle this problem, what they can do is they can increase the cost of tuition and therefore reduce the amount of students that apply at their colleges. This is referred to as the Bennett Hypothesis. It was introduced by a gentleman named Bill Bennett, who was the Secretary of Education in 1987. What he said is increases in financial aid in recent years have enabled colleges and universities blithely to raise their tuition. confident that federal loan subsidies would help cushion the increase. Now, this theory was later confirmed 28 years later by the Federal Reserve Bank. They wrote in a report that higher tuition costs raise loan demand, but loan supply relaxes students' funding constraints. So how do we solve this mess? There's a lot of proposals, but here are the top 5 proposed solutions. The most likely situation on how they're going to fix this is by ratifying it, changing the system at hand. So this is most likely going to be done by changing the loan's interest rates amounts or consolidating those loans, creating payback terms that would not exceed 10% of the person's expendable income, or potentially letting people add their student loans to a bankruptcy case if they need to file bankruptcy. The problem here is that these efforts are probably going to be too little, too late. It's kind of like trying to move a mountain with a spoon. I'm gonna be here for a while. The second solution is to forgive that debt, whether in whole or in part. Either they wipe the slate completely clean or they cover a substantial amount of each person's debt. Let's say $10,000 is removed from every single person's debt. Seems really great if you're one of those people that have that debt out there. There's also the possibility that they'll forgive debt if the person qualifies. Maybe they become a civil servant and after a certain duration of service, their debt gets removed. Now, there's a lot of problems with this potential solution, even though it is wildly popular with those people that have debt. Of course, they would love this idea. But the problem with this is that you're left with a lot of money that is owed and somebody's got to pick up the bill. And ultimately, when the government owes a lot of money, it is the citizens that end up having to pay for it. So whether that comes directly to the citizens in the form of taxation or indirectly in the form of inflation by printing up more money or monetative easing, as they call it. Either way, this becomes a burden that is spread across all citizens, even though only a small group of the population received the benefit. So, for example, if you're a college student that has college debt, the average college graduate is making about $75,000, while the poor obviously make significantly less. However, that burden is spread out to the poor people just as much as it's spread out to the people that have higher earnings. So the poor end up funding people with higher earnings. Basically, the idea is the poor might be funding the rich. Also, it seems really unfair if you're one of the people that ended up working really hard, maybe taking on like 3 jobs just so you could pay off your debt. While if you hadn't paid it off, you would have just had it excused later. It doesn't seem fair that you might have worked really hard to fulfill the debt that you signed up for while everybody else is just getting it wiped clean and not working hard to do it. The third possible solution is to let the free market fix the problem. In this scenario, the government would be removed from making any future loans. Now, they could still collect on the old ones, but they just couldn't issue any new ones. So who would make loans from that point on? Well, private lenders would take over. And if private lenders took over, the truth is they would be much less likely to create loans for people that are high risk because they'd be the ones taking the risk. They'd be the ones that would lose out, not the taxpayers. So the odds are they would reduce the quantity of loans given out there, and that's going to decrease the amount of students in college. Now, as colleges have less students, they're going to want to increase how many students come to their classes, and the way to do that is for them to lower the price of tuition. So this would reduce the cost of school. This is by far the most pragmatic and economically sound solution, but it's not going to happen. The reason it's not going to happen at all is because government is not going to give up power. They never have, and Milton Friedman is noted for saying there is nothing so permanent as a temporary government program, and this definitely falls in that camp. Now, there is the hope that technology might come to the rescue. Technology is the fourth possible solution to this problem. Online learning is not usually taken as seriously as people that go to universities. And the cost of online learning is already low, but it could even be lower. That's because there's no class limitations. The class size could be as big as you want it to be. And now that everybody's learning and communicating via Zoom, there's a real chance that this could happen. Also, classes could be pre-recorded. You could reduce your expenses around professors, which would be amazing. Now, if you haven't seen Khan Academy, it's one of the best learning platforms I've ever seen. You should really check it out, and I think it could be a great model for other educational platforms. The fifth possible solution is free college, which is wildly popular, and why wouldn't it be? People love things that are free. I do, at least. And this seems pretty simple as a solution. You just take the existing public education system and you expand it. It doesn't seem that hard, right? Well, it's actually a little bit more difficult than that because there's infrastructure problems. You'd need to create a great deal of facilities for the incredible demand you'd see when you're offering a free service like this. Also, it's going to cost a lot of money. That money is going to result in a huge influx in government power and control and growth. And with that comes increased regulation. So there's a lot that goes along with this. Additionally, it's going to have massive implications to the economy within taxes, and also you get a smaller workforce that comes right out of high school because most people are going to go right into college and continue with ongoing education rather than hitting the workforce. So there's a massive amount that goes on here, and it's really a difficult thing to make sustainable within our current system unless you were to hike taxes up tremendously. Sometimes there's just no easy answers to problems like this, but I'd like to know what solution you think would be best to solve this issue. Leave a comment below with what answer you think is the best thing we should do about the student loan crisis in this country. And if you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe. I'm a new channel. I know I don't have a lot of viewers, so if you're viewing and you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you did because I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to put some effort into this and it would really help me. Also, I hope to see you on the next video. Bye.